Welcome back to The Chosen Life. And for today's episode, we have a very special guest, New York City Realtor, up-and-coming superstar, Mae Haggard. Katie, welcome to The Chosen Life.
Hey, Jonathan, thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
Such a pleasure. Are you in New York City currently?
Yes, I am.
What is the weather like today?
Right now, it's very cloudy and overcast. It hasn't rained yet, at least where I live, but very cloudy. Yesterday, it was beautiful, though. Yesterday was a gorgeous day.
I gotta tell you, one of my favorite cities on the planet. I've been there so many times, and it's one of those cities that I don't know if I would live there, but I would visit there every chance that I could.
Oh, yeah, man. New York just has my heart. You know, there's literally no other place like it, and the longer I'm here, the more I fall in love with it, and it's just unlike any other city in the world.
Well, to talk about your story and your journey, so first of all, you did not start off as a realtor, and you did not start off in New York City.
Yeah, I did not.
I think like every other diverse New York success story, it always begins from another origin. So let's start off with the Mae Haggard story. Tell us, where were you born and raised?
Yeah, so actually, I was born in Kansas. My dad was in the military, and I believe it was Fort Riley out in Kansas. And then we moved around a lot, obviously. I lived in Kansas, we moved to Mississippi, we lived in Alaska for 3 years, which was amazing. And then we moved to Arkansas, and then ended up, he actually retired in Memphis, Tennessee. So that's kind of, Memphis, Tennessee is kind of where I spent like my middle school, high school years. And so whenever anyone asks me where I'm from, I'm just like, I'm from Memphis. You know, you don't want to go through that whole progression. So I spent my high school years in Memphis, and you know, really, really did love it. I was always very driven, very, you know, I wanted to have a plan. I had goals. I didn't want to, like when I was in high school, I was seeing like everybody around me, all my friends and my siblings and their friends, they would end up like the end of high school ready to go to college and have no idea what they wanted to do. So they ended up wasting years and years and years of just like chilling, you know? And I didn't want to do that. So I was like 11 years old when I started thinking about like what I wanted to do with my life. And I went through a couple of things that I was really interested in. And then eventually I love to cook, and I was like, you know, I kind of think that I really want to pursue being a chef. And I was
when I met you at the time, when we met in New York City, it was about 2019, I think, so pre-COVID, and I knew you as a New York City chef from Memphis. I didn't even know the whole story of it.
Yeah. yeah. It's like any story, it's always more involved. But I ended up graduating high school a year early, and I was like, I'm going to take this year and I'm going to work in restaurants before I decide that, you know, this is what I want to do. Because like I've always been really bad at academics in school. I don't like it. I'm not good at it, you know. So I was like, whatever I decide to do, I have to be able to get in and out of it within 2 years, because I can't handle any more school than that. And so, you know, culinary is about a 2-year program most places. So I was like, that would work. So I ended up working in restaurants for a year. I worked in 2 restaurants. Started out in the front of the house, serving, hosting, that sort of thing. And then I talked the executive chef into letting me like do some prep work in the kitchen. And that took so much work. Like this chef was just like one of those very serious individuals. And he knew that I wanted to go to culinary school. And so one day I saw him like interviewing people, and I was like, Keith, you are not hiring somebody right now. And so that kind of sparked the whole thing. And he let me start like working in the back like 1 day a week and things like that, just to get my feet wet.
And this is in Memphis, correct?
This is in Memphis, yeah.
And culinary school was in Memphis as well.
Culinary school was not in Memphis.
Oh.
Not in Memphis. And the funny thing is, when I was deciding culinary schools to go to, I wanted to move to New York to go to, at the time, the French Culinary Institute, because they had this particular program where I would spend time abroad and things like that. And it was a really incredible program. So, and I actually came up here to visit with my parents and looked at the school and everything, loved it, but it was also like $100,000. And, you know, I
And
was
that's
like,
in US dollars, folks, for whichever country. And that's a lot of money.
yeah, for like and that was a 2-year program. And I was like, look, because I knew what cooks started out making. Like when you start out as a line cook, you don't make a lot of money. And I was like, you know, do I really want to be 100 grand in debt just starting out? You know, and so anyway, I was thinking about that. And then the chef I was working for at my first restaurant, who gave me the 1 day a week, he was like, you should go to the school I went to. It's a tech school. I know the chef there. He's very good. You learn everything you need to learn about cooking, and you can get out, and it's not that expensive. But it was in Atlanta. So I went to Atlanta, saw it, and everything was great. It was great. You know, I knew, because culinary school literally, and I feel so bad for all these kids out there who are going to culinary school and think they need this big name on their application, because they don't. You just need to go to culinary school and learn how basic cooking technique. That's what culinary school is for, you know, and it doesn't take that long, and it shouldn't be that expensive. But you got people just charging these kids so much money to, you know, it's ridiculous. But anyway.
But in fairness, I'll tell people, I learned all my cooking from mom and from YouTube. And no matter how much practice I've had, I've seen your creations on Instagram, and I can't touch that stuff. So learning the technique, it does pay off.
Yeah, it's so important. It's so important. But you know, and a lot of, and honestly, like most of those things I learned working on the job with great chefs, you know, honestly. But so I ended up going to school in Atlanta, and the headmaster of the culinary program, he actually had a restaurant. And so I worked for him in his restaurant, and then went to school full time. And I ended up staying there a total of 6 years.
Oh, good.
Because I was working my way up through the ranks in his restaurant after school. And then I just kind of hit this, you know, you hit this level where it's like, I can't really do anything else here. I can't really grow anymore here. I knew that I was capable of a lot more. There wasn't really anything else that I could do within that restaurant. So I started looking around other restaurants in Atlanta. And there was a couple of good ones, but what I was really disappointed in at the time in the food scene in Atlanta was everything was very much the same. Like it was all this sort of new Southern American cuisine, which is fine, but I didn't want to cook that. You know, I wanted to cook like Michelin star fine dining cuisine, and it really just didn't exist anywhere in Atlanta.
Okay.
So I started really thinking like, where am I going to go? And I always thought about moving to California, and I always thought about moving to New York, and New York was like the dream, right? And then it just hit me one day. It was like, if I don't go to New York now, I'm never going to go. You know, I can always go to California if I want to, but if I don't go now, it'll never happen. And it was like I had been searching for so long for the answer, and then the answer just hit me like a ton of bricks, and I knew exactly where I was supposed to go. And that's how I ended up in New York.
How long ago did you go to New York City? From Atlanta?
I moved here in November of 2015.
2015. Okay, so you have been in New York for quite a while.
Yeah.
Now, you spent 6 years in Atlanta. Just to put in perspective, like, you know, when you're graduating high school and you're starting up your career and then going to school, your family is back home in Memphis, right?
Yeah.
So what is the commute like? It's not too far of a distance, right? From Memphis to Atlanta.
Memphis to Atlanta is about a 6-hour drive.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's not bad.
Or a
Or you
5-minute
could fly.
or
Yeah.
a 5-minute flight, right?
Yeah.
But then New York City is a whole other trek.
Yeah.
So was there any hesitation that way as far as being close to family, or you're ready to just let loose and let it happen?
For me on my side, no. And I don't say that in like a negative way. I love my family dearly, but I was always that person who was like 18 and I'm out. you know, like I always knew like I am capable of making my own decisions, making good decisions. And even if I make a bad decision, it's going to be fine. You know what I mean? I'm very independent, and I've always been confident of being able to take care of myself. So it was never, and I'm also one of those people who's just like, you know, just do it and figure the rest out later.
Yes.
You know, so, and that's literally how it was when I moved to New York. I think the only thing that I really had lined up was a job and a place to live. And other than that, it was just like, you know, I'm here.
So I meet you in about 2019, and
Mhm.
just for reference, we were at a unique studio called Box and Flow. And I thought this was the coolest thing ever because I love boxing and I love yoga. And I'm in New
Oh my
York.
God.
I'm visiting for like a week. And I'm like, I need to get my workouts in. And I'm researching in my area. And I'm saying, oh my God, I can actually box, take off the boxing gloves, and do some yoga. This place is for me. So I rush over there and I start going there every day. And I think twice a day sometimes. They had co-ed change rooms, but it doesn't sound as sexy as it actually was. There was like a separation for the showers part, but I'm like, okay, this is really different. So whatever. And we were in the change room talking, and that's how we had originally spoken. And you were cooking, and I was a real estate lawyer. And it's
Mhm.
funny now looking ahead, you found us in the world of real estate.
Yeah, I know. Isn't it so crazy? I just have to say, I miss Box and Flow every day, like every day.
It was so cool because you come in there, it was like this dark, like you feel like you're like kind of like in a basement dungeon kind of thing, but in a good way. Like,
Mhm.
and they pump out the music and you're just pumping out the punches for like 40 minutes straight.
Yeah,
Your arms feel like they're gonna fall off, and then throw off the gloves, roll down the mat, and half an hour of yoga. I thought that was like the coolest concept ever.
it's so great.
I'm so sad for them. You know, there's a lot of studios and a lot of fitness centers, you know, with COVID, unfortunately did not survive, and they were not one of them. But I met the studio owner. I thought she was amazing. How long were you going to Box and Flow for?
Oh man, I was going for a couple of years. Had to have been, yeah. Yeah, it was so good. Um,
So it's
but
amazing. It's
yeah.
amazing the things we love, and then we're used to it, and then all of a sudden we break away from our comfort zone. So again, when I met you at that point, you've already been in New York for 4 years, and you're cooking. So
Mhm.
where did you start off cooking in New York, and how did you find that travel from cooking to real estate?
Yeah, so I started I started out at this one restaurant, and I actually worked at this one restaurant for a total of 5 years, almost the entirety of my time in New York. And I worked my way from the bottom all the way up to chef de cuisine, and
And you're not taking
which
acting
was
classes. You're not going to like
mm-mm.
auditions at the time. You are devoted to this profession.
Yeah, oh yeah. 100% professional chef. I wanted to work my way up through the ranks, and that's exactly what I was doing.
Mhm.
And in, let's see, February of 2020, I had just taken my first like head chef position. We in a restaurant. It was a Japanese restaurant, and they had a Michelin star sushi bar on one side of it, and then a main dining room on the other side. So they were bringing me in to run the main dining room, and the sushi chef was like the executive chef, and then I was running the dining room was mine. And we were revamping the program because their main dining room was just, it was a wreck, and they had this really beautiful Michelin starred sushi bar, and the dining room was awful. So we were revamping their program. And then obviously, so that was February 2020, and March 2020, obviously everything shut down because of COVID.
Right.
And eventually, we wondered for the first few months if we were going to reopen, and eventually they were just like, we're not able to sustain it, and they did not, excuse me, end up reopening. So at that point I'm like, and honestly, during COVID, the quarantine and the shutdown, I was actually really grateful for it, because I was so exhausted. I was like, I definitely needed a break, some time off. So I was loving every minute of that, until they were like, we're not going to open again. I was like, well, okay, so let's figure it out. So I started staging at other restaurants, um, and then I ended up finding out that my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. And so I was like, and but when you find out that you have cancer, and then when you actually start treatment, there's a couple of months in there. So during that couple of months, I was like, well, you know, what am I going to do? Because someone has to take care of my mom through treatment. And, you know, the rest of my siblings had families and all of those things. And, you know, so I was like, if I take any one of these jobs and another restaurant, I can't help my mom through treatment. And if I stay in restaurants, then I can never, I'm never there for them. Like there's zero flexibility, right?
Right.
Because, you know, you're in restaurants from 9 a.m. until close every single day, if not earlier than that. You know, so because like the higher you move up in restaurants as a chef, the more, if you don't get more time, you lose more time, you know. So it's zero flexibility. And I had always wanted to get involved in real estate from an investment perspective, not necessarily the sales side of things. So I just started thinking, I'm like, you know, what is there, just asking the questions, like, is there something that I can do, that I want to do, that I can get excited about, that will give me flexibility in being able to be there for my family, not just short term, but long term as well. You know, and I started thinking about real estate because, you know, it is more flexible. It's your own business. The earning potential is much greater. There's really no lid on it. And you can build a very successful business from it, you know. So that was very attractive to me. And it also would, you know, make it slightly easier to get into the investment side of things eventually.
So you're back. Are you in Memphis at this point? Are you back? Did you go back to Memphis to?
I'm in New York at this point. I'm in New York at this point.
Still in New York, okay.
Yeah, still in New York at this point. And so even, you know, immediately when I decided that, I started studying for my real estate license, because it's not a hard thing to get. You just have to take this 75-hour course and then the state exam. So I did that and got my license. It was funny, like I took the state exam like 3 days before I left to go to Memphis. And I was like, if I don't pass this exam, then I don't get my license, because I couldn't go back to retake it. But anyway, I passed.
How long between the time you started studying for the course, the time that you took your bar exam, how much time was that roughly?
It was probably 6 weeks or so. Yeah, probably
6 weeks.
I don't know exactly.
So 6 weeks from the beginning of studying, you take the course, and then you got to pass the bar in New York, and you passed it on the first try. And now you're licensed to be a realtor.
And now I'm a licensed real estate agent in New York, in the state of New York.
It's very interesting because realtors listening to this, like, so I'm based out of Ontario, Canada, and our criteria are much, much different. Like we have a lot of mini courses that people have to take, and then they have to take the test. So I think, I don't know if it's 12 courses, 14 courses, whatever it is. You got to go step by step by step by step. And they're going to be introducing, if they haven't done it already, a bar is coming into here as well.
Oh.
So I think all the different body governing this will look at different areas and see what they're doing, and that makes sense. But it was pretty quick timeline that you're able to pull it together, and you got it on the first try, which is awesome.
Yeah, no, that's exciting. And the course itself, it's 75-hour online course with you know, chapter exams that you have to pass, and then the course exam that you have to pass. So until you get through the course and pass everything, you can't take the final. And then we have, you know, a certain number of continuing education hours that we have to do every year in order to stay licensed. So
did you have it in your head previously, just in general, that you would get the license, or did the license idea only really come through COVID times?
Only through COVID, when I was trying to find a way to be able to help my mom, you know, because I love cooking. To this day, I love to cook, you know, and I do miss aspects of the kitchen. I don't miss the lack of flexibility, but I really do miss cooking. Actually.
Yeah, it's funny and I've seen people who have had their career changes, and you know, it's very often for the best. And it's during, you know, times of crisis, you know, blessings can come out of it. And the blessing for you was that it showed you the path for your career. But you passed the bar, you head back home. Now you're with mom and the family. And when did you come back to New York to actually jumpstart the real estate career?
Yeah, so I was in Memphis for 5.5 months. I got back February, the second week of February. in 2021.
2021. Okay. So
And
a year and a bit ago. Yeah.
yeah. And actually, while I was in Memphis, I wasn't sure how long I was going to need to be there, because, you never know what's going to happen. So I actually got licensed in Tennessee as well. And started doing just like minor work with a team down there, just because I didn't want to waste time. I wanted to learn and do something while I was there. So that was good.
Did you have to pass the bar there as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Look at you. Let's pass bars. Let's get licensed, and let's just practice some real estate while we're here and get going on it.
Some real estate done.
Good for you. So how soon till you got involved in your first transaction?
I don't really remember, honestly. So I partnered with I have a lender partner, and we started doing like first time home webinars for people, first time home buyer webinars. And we got few deals from that, which was really great. What's interesting, and I didn't expect this coming from, a career change, like working in kitchens. I've always been a very hard worker, and I've always it was never a big deal to me. Like I loved working hard. But it's just a different type of hard work in real estate than it is in kitchens. And it's a different type of personal discipline and personal growth that you have to have in real estate or in your own business. And that's been interesting to learn and work through,
I say that I think what you're doing right now, I think, is one of the hardest, if not the hardest professions, because you literally have to create something from nothing. It's all on you. And, I'm picturing now you work in a kitchen, you're baking a cake, you're making a dinner, you can see the end product. And when you're working for somebody, you're getting the paycheck. Here, you can put in all these hours, work with the most fantastic clients on the planet, and one thing or another, they don't buy, they don't sell, and there's no money to show for it, despite the hours. It's or you could put in minimal time and just fall into a good situation with great clients, great property. And before you know it, it's sold or it's purchased, and boom, it's over like that. So you never.
It's so crazy. There's no two deals are the same. And, but I think this is where I am right now. And over the last year is why so many agents don't succeed in this business, because it's it gets really hard for a long time, and they don't want to stick it out and figure out how to make it work. And because I think, what's the statistic, and this could be wrong, but 98% of new agents quit within the first 2 years or something like that. It's an astronomical number.
I could see that.
And
for sure.
And a bunch of people, we got a bunch of new agents through COVID times, which I understand, because everybody lost their job and they're like, oh, I can sell real estate. But yeah, it's just very, it's different.
I would also say that when you were cooking, when you were a chef, you were 100% devoted to being a chef. And when you went into real estate, you were 100% devoted to being in real estate. You're not running 3 different careers here and kind of dabbling in it. Like, you were new to it, you were green, but you are throwing yourself fully into it. I think that makes a very big difference. Plus, by the time you got back to New York, you'd already started the career as far as back in Memphis. Now, when did you get back to New York, and when did the New York real estate career start?
Yeah, so I got back to New York February of 2021, middle of February. It was Valentine's Day weekend. And I started right away. So, and I ended up, I was with one brokerage, and then I ended up switching brokerages a few months, probably 6 months in or so, which that was great. That was really good for me. And it really, you have to make sure you surround yourself with the right people, that makes all the difference in the world, And that was one thing that I had to learn, because I thought I was with the right people for a long time, and then slowly realized that I wasn't. But at the end of the day, you have to do what's best for you and what's going to actually help you grow and you move forward and make the progress that you can.
I find a lot of agents do switch their brokerages early on in their careers. Sometimes it's the brokerage itself. Sometimes it happens to be the group within that broker. Because there's the brokerage in a global sense where you
Mhm.
went to one office is not the same as another office, you know, because a lot of
Yeah.
these brokerages are worldwide.
Yeah.
So because it could be that particular office didn't fit, or the team of people that they were working with, or if they're
Mhm.
partnering up with somebody and people think they have that solution. Sometimes it's a great fit. Sometimes they need to make a change just for the sake of making a change because they're stagnant. So I,
Yeah.
I definitely see a lot of that. You're with EXP Realty now,
Yeah. Yeah.
known as a pretty dynamic brokerage. Why did you pick them out of everybody?
So I picked EXP Realty for two main reasons. Um, the people that I wanted to be aligned with were with EXP Realty,
Okay.
and the other thing is they're splits,
They're
and they're splits. So
splits.
I'm not sure
Yes.
if it's different in Canada, but like in here in the States, like my original brokerage I was with, they I had to pay them $30,000 a year, 70-30 split. And then it was, you got to keep 100% of your commission once you paid the 30 grand, which all in all, that's not terrible. It's really not. But EXP is $16,000 with 80-20 split. So I get to keep 80, they take 20 until you hit 16 grand. And that's for everybody. Like that doesn't change across the world.
And
It's
what happens
16,000.
after the 16 grand?
You get to keep 100% of your commissions.
Interesting. It's
Yeah.
I've heard of so many different splits, how they're set up. And one thing I would caution any realtor listening to this, that it doesn't always work. There could be a place that charges you next to nothing as far as splits wise, but there's something to it as far as the name you're attaching yourself to, if that works for you or not, the kind of mentorship you're getting, right? If they're offering
Mhm.
programs as far as developing your skills, the kind of people you're working with, if you form a good team. There's so many variables of why people work where they do. I've had brokerages where people are working that are paying astronomical splits, but they're also making astronomical money because that's the
Mhm.
kind of deals that are flowing in. So everybody's very, very different in this sense.
Everybody is. And I think brokerages are very interesting because like you can make astronomical amounts of money regardless of what brokerage you're with. You can 100%. That's completely up to you, you know? And I haven't seen, and I've done a lot of research on brokerages, and I haven't seen anyone that actually has a good program for teaching people about real estate. I haven't. Everything that I've really learned about real estate, I've gotten through outside sources, like through mega agents who started their own coaching companies, or
Like Ryan Serhat.
things like that, like Ryan Serhant, like Haas Pratt, like Lisa Copeland, like there's so much information out there, and I think people get too agents, especially new agents, get too tied up with what brokerage they're with, because like what are they really going to do for you? Like they're all going to make a lot of promises, but are they really going to come through on those promises? So I think you really, and as new agents, you don't know what you need. You don't know, like, you really don't know anything. So you're just going in blind and trusting people, and that's okay. But, I would just, for me, it's never been about the brokerage. I like to be left alone and be able to do what I want to do. And that's another reason why I like EXP Realty, because, they want you as the agent to build your brand. They don't necessarily want to push EXP brand. They want you to be at the forefront. And I love that about it. So
Yep.
yeah, go ahead.
And
Sorry.
so that's why you picked them in particular. Interesting.
Yeah.
And I gotta tell you, like in a global sense, here I am as an outsider, right? I met you
Mhm.
actually once. I mean, we spoke quite a bit
Yeah.
afterwards, but we never actually met each other physically after that. And I got to see your journey through social media, like everybody else,
Mhm.
and I see the chef and the professional chef and the beautiful creations you're making. All of a sudden, real estate, it felt like almost overnight. And then as I'm watching your progression and your posts and your videos, it feels like at some point you've been doing real estate forever, like that's how you're putting it
Yeah.
out there. And I got to tell you, like I made myself a couple of notes here, and I want to stress this very much. The way I would describe Katie, ambitious, very much so. That's very clear in all her postings, whether it's chef, realtor, and very much setting yourself and what you're speaking. I made these notes, and it's very clear to me: professional and personal goals. You're a person that you're not just okay with getting by day to day, seeing how things go, you set yourself big level goals. You see the vision of the future. I know when we've had our discussions off camera, like before, like speaking, that's
Mhm.
it. That was very much the forefront always for you. You know, where am I heading in life? Where am I going to live? Where is this? You know, how are things going in New York? Where are things going to go for my career? And I was very impressed always that you keep setting goals wise for yourself. And that's where on your, and you, people will have your contact information so they can reach you after this episode. And I highly
Yes.
encourage people to hit that subscribe button, send your comments for myself and Katie, because we'd love to get the feedback and talk about it. Because people are watching this also saying, do I go to New York City? Do I do a career change? You know, here's proof. Yes, it can be done.
Yeah.
But what the way you titled yourself was very interesting. You chose to put in the word entrepreneur.
Mhm.
Now, I have to ask you, knowing so far people are like, they're on the edge of the seat, you know, they're following your journey through the States, finding your dream in New York City, now in a new career, established career. It's not that new anymore, actually, but it
Yeah.
feels relatively new, but it's not. Why entrepreneur? What does the word entrepreneurship mean to you?
You know, I always, even as a kid, I always wanted to have my own business. And, you know, at the time when I was younger, I always thought it would be like either, you know, a restaurant or sort of food production company, or, you know, have my own brand of something, like something like that.
Mhm.
Because that's how you create wealth, you know, like through having your own business, through investments and things like that. And that's what I've always wanted to do is create wealth for myself and my family, and sort of be that pioneer for my family. And I think you have to call yourself and treat yourself and think of yourself as who you see yourself to be, not necessarily who you are right now, because that's how you become that. And you know, having being a real estate agent allowed me to create, I am creating my own business for that, you know, wealth creation right now, even though it is still just a baby. And I just had a speaker for one of my events come in, and he made a comment, and he was like, this is chapter one of my book, and I've got 400 chapters in my book. And I was like, I love that, because that's exactly how I feel, you know. And I think it's a good perspective, because it's so easy to get sort of like cloudy in your mind with where you are right now, especially if you're having like frustration with where you are, or you're have to make big decisions about a career change, or maybe it's not moving as quickly as you want it to move. You know, understand that this is just your chapter one,
I love
and you
that.
have 400 chapters, and you just got to get through to the next chapter, you know. So I do consider myself an entrepreneur, and with a baby business right now, but I know that baby business is going to grow to be a toddler, and then it's going to grow to be a teenager, and then we're going to expand and have more babies, you know. You know what I mean? Because I am very good at casting a vision and seeing I think my potential could go. You know, I think that's one of my gifts. Um, being detail oriented in the day-to-day mundane is not my strength. So that's kind of what I've been really focusing on, you know, most recently in the last year, and getting that really dialed in.
I think that's what it'll be eventually, also growing the team, getting a personal
Yeah.
assistant. Everything will grow from there. And I see the progressions for people. So it's finding the stuff that you enjoy to do, you know, rainmaking, bringing in the clients, servicing them. And then the other
Hmm.
details, having somebody look after that. So that's what comes in the growth. But the beginning, when you're starting your own business, it's all you. You're the HR
Yeah.
department, you're the marketing department, you're the sales department, you're the accounting department, you're literally everything. So I love how you put that, because really, you know, a lot of people doing what you're doing don't realize that really you are running a business. You know, it may
Hmm.
not have the bricks and mortar, so to speak. You know, that's the car, that's you traveling around in your place, in your office with the EXP, but it is a business that you're running. And I love
Hmm.
that.
Yeah.
Now before we get into actual real estate and talking about that, to put it to the context now for a lot of us, like we're on the outside. So I'm in Toronto, you know, not everybody can still travel out of Canada. We won't get into all that stuff, but,
Yeah.
but, New York City, you know, for all of us that love New York City, you know, either grew up in New York City, been to New York City, you know, bleed Yankee blue. It is such a dynamic city. It is just the most amazing place in the world. And it's one of those things you come, it's like, it's so busy and so congested. How could you love it? you just got to get a feel for, when you walk through Central Park and you get to see the sights, you get to go to shows and the dinners, like there really is no place like it.
Mm-mm.
Tell us now.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No,
It's
that's
just
okay.
got this intense energy that a lot of people can't, I don't want to say can't handle, but just don't like, and don't identify with. But yeah.
Have you been to Toronto yet?
I haven't. I haven't been to Canada.
Oh, you have not been to Canada. Okay, well,
no.
If imagine New York City real dialed down, like
okay.
Toronto is like, so New York is like Toronto on steroids, basically. Like we're like a mini-ish wannabe New York City. Sorry, guys, but and gals, but Toronto's a lot calmer. Like you can still drive. You're not, you don't want to leave your car and just walk and subway it everywhere. But I would say we're in that genre, certainly.
Okay.
So I know, and all of us, wherever we're living, people all over the world are watching this right now. Hi, everyone. And as they're there and they're thinking, I've been to New York City, I plan to go to New York City. Let's take aside what the media is saying about it. Give us the straight goods. We are in the year 2022 now. 2020 is in the back of our rear mirrors. What is New York today like? How is it recovered? What is general life like in New York City? Please tell us.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's such a great question. And I'll tell you what I tell my family all the time when they text me and call me worried. And I'm like, the news always makes it sound 100 times worse than it is because they only report the bad things that happen. And that's just what it is. So New York City is very much alive. It's very much well. The restrictions have been lifted, so there's no more mask mandates. There's no more, except for in, I believe Broadway still has the vaccination mandates, but no more mask mandates, which is awesome. And people are everywhere. Like it feels like old New York.
You can go to concerts, you can go to sporting events, dinners, everything's open.
Everything's open. Everything's open. And the only thing, like, I know a lot of companies are still okay with, they haven't made them come back to work yet. So I know like a lot of our office buildings are still pretty empty, but the energy, people are back. It's, parks are full. Like it's incredible. It's incredible.
Have offices like started doing like hybrid versions of some offices mandated people back? Like as far as when you're walking through the downtown there, is there people again? Like, is there a good flow?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Everywhere, like everywhere. It's awesome. And I was just thinking this the other day because I was out in Manhattan with my friend and it was just everywhere was packed. It's like New York is back. I walked the Brooklyn Bridge with my friend and it was just packed. It was packed, no masks, gorgeous day. And it was lovely. And it's just it makes me so happy because honestly, there was nothing more depressing than walking through New York City and it being completely empty. Like it was just so sad. It was so sad because it's the people who make New York what it is,
The only time I remember seeing anything like that was back in September 11th, back in the day when unfortunate incidents happened. And I was in downtown Toronto at the time. And I was stuck in a tax library when I walked out of there in the middle of the afternoon. I walk out and literally there's no cars, there's no people. And I said, oh my God, did World War III break out? What the heck is going on here? Like this was blowing my mind. And even now, as we're going through the pandemic here, a lot of people working from home, offices were closed and, it was barely any foot traffic for what you would normally see. And now it's starting to come back to normalcy, so to speak, as well. But, we can't talk about normalcy. We can't talk about how life is without ingraining real estate because everybody loves talking about real estate and where the real estate's at. And I remember at the start of the pandemic, people were talking about New York City, rents are falling. People are leaving New York in droves. Rents are the lowest ever. Commercial space is available like never before. Prices are dropping, on purchases. This is the kind of stuff we're hearing. So tell us now, how much of that was actually accurate and where are rental actual prices like residential, commercial in general in New York these days?
Yeah, absolutely. So back in 2020, all of that was true. Rental prices were falling like crazy because everybody left. Everybody left. So landlords were just trying to get people in the building, right? So the landlord was agreeing to pay the broker fee. They were slashing rents, and people took advantage of that, and they should have. Like it was crazy how cheap some of these rents were. But man, now that is completely the opposite. Like I think Miami just passed us in rental prices they just passed us because that's how much they went up. Like rental prices are so high right now simply because landlords need to make them they got to recoup somehow, right? So
I got to tell you, I just came back from Miami, by the way, and look at Airbnbs in New York. Look at Airbnbs in Miami. Good grief! It is impossible to find a place to stay in Miami. You're there, you think that it's going out of style, like it's amazing. Everybody's clamoring to be there, and I thought New York was expensive. Miami is at another level altogether.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it's crazy. It's so crazy. I had a friend come in from Miami and he was like, I went to a steakhouse. He was like, that exact thing cost me like $350. It would have cost me $1,000 in Miami. That's crazy. And I think, I don't know, but I know a lot of people left New York and went to Miami. So that could have, something to do with it. But
The weather is
yeah,
pretty incredible, especially in the winter over there. I will say.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, absolutely. And that's where like every New Yorker goes when they leave New York.
Or maybe Arizona, but
yeah.
but
Yeah.
otherwise, as far as from let's start with residential. So rental prices, have they stabilized? Are they back to pre-pandemic numbers or close
They're
to it, do you
higher
think?
than pre-pandemic.
They're higher.
Much higher, yeah.
Interesting.
Much higher than pre-pandemic for rentals. And as far as residential is concerned,
Mm-hmm.
you have to look at, in New York, you have to look at the different types of residential. You've got condos, co-ops, and single families. Okay, so the co-op space, they slowed down for a while.
Okay.
So we weren't seeing the price hike with co-ops like they were previously, and like we were seeing with single families, because everybody wanted more space, right? Because they didn't want the 1-bedroom co-op or 2-bedroom co-op because because now they needed 2 offices and all this other space. So we really saw the price hike with mostly single families and then luxury condos too. Excuse me. So single family homes, like they would get 30 offers in a weekend, and they would sell for their offers would be accepted 50 grand over list average, like all the time. So the thing about the low interest rates were great for people because it allowed a lot of people who could formerly not afford a home to now be able to afford a home. Okay, so that was great. The problem that you run into when that happens is, especially with this sort of flood of new buyers into the market, and you only have the same amount of homes for sale, drives prices up. And a lot of times new first-time home buyers, they don't have as much cash, in the bank. They have like a minimum down payment and things like that. But when you're dealing with, $50,000 over list price, then you run into appraisal issues. And if the buyer doesn't have a lot of cash, then they can't cover the gap, things like that. So that's where it can be a little bit difficult. But I hear a lot of buyers say, it's just too crazy. I don't want to be in the market right now. Well, yeah, it's crazy, but if you just stay in it, that people are buying and selling homes every day. It's crazy. So you just have to stay in it until you get yours accepted and get under contract, be patient. And that's kind of what it's about. But it's been nuts. And we're in the beginning of a shift right now. So which is good. And we all knew it was coming.
So tell us, because we know our shift in Canada here, and we know that the media is, the sky is falling every day.
Yeah.
Interest rates are rising. It's a buyer's market. There's no more multi offers. There's no more bully offers. What's it like in New York now? What's the shift like for you?
Yeah, and we're just in the beginning of it. So we're starting to see a higher number of homes for sale, which is great. With the higher interest rates, it is pushing people out of the market. So buyers are coming down. So if you're a homeowner, you've got equity in your home, now is the time to sell. Don't wait. Otherwise you're gonna miss out on being able to sell your home for a significant amount of money. So that's what we're just starting to see right now. I think other areas of the country are seeing it happen faster, like Texas, but we're just starting, and it's going to be really interesting. And I think, like, everybody always wants to make it sound like the sky is falling and everything is going bad. But what they don't understand is like this happens all the time. It goes up and it goes down and it goes up and it goes down. And, you know, just expect it and learn how to maneuver, because you're never going to be able to to stop it.
I gotta tell you, like, I'm a couple years older than you, not much, but I remember being a kid and having GICs at 15%. Okay, so you can imagine what mortgage rates were like if your GIC was 15%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, but honestly, it's funny because I've read a lot of studies on that, and they're saying that back in the day when you're 70s, 80s, if you're buying a house, let's say for 50 grand and you're paying 20% in interest, you're way better off than buying the house for $1 million and paying 1.5% interest. But people don't see that. They just know those payments. It's so funny.
It is crazy because I think a lot, and this is where like our job comes into play and where we have to be knowledgeable and educate people, because they just see this either really high interest rate and they don't look at the overall picture. Like, how much am I actually paying in interest in 3 different scenarios? You know, if the interest rate goes up 2%, everybody freaks out. But like, look at the property, look at the actual, like the length, what's your term, you know, what's your loan terms and things like that. So, you know, just walking them through the process and making sure they see the numbers and can understand the numbers makes a big difference, you know, because property taxes has a lot to do with their payment too. And I have these conversations all the time. Like, no, you can't afford that house. It's $15,000 in taxes, you know.
But what do you do with that buyer that comes to you and says to you, I really want to get in the market. I've always wanted to own in New York City. I've been renting forever, but I hear the market's starting to soften. Do I hold off? What do I do? What do you tell them?
Well, basically what I do with all of my clients, they want to buy, we look at where they're at financially, like, you know, what's your credit? How much money do you have for a down payment? What kind of a property are you wanting to buy? What kind of area are you wanting to look in? And then we determine like what they can afford based off of what they want, you know. And I think if you can be in the market, get in the market. If you need to purchase right now, start looking, because like I said before, the market's always changing. So trying to time the market is just not a wise thing to do. You have to do what's best for you and then make adjustments based on what the market's doing.
I'll throw you a couple of things as well, because as a real estate lawyer, this comes up all the time, and I'll tell them, listen, I'm not giving you business advice, but I'll tell you a couple of things. When that property would have had 30 offers, let's say, and right now they don't, and they'll actually put it in conditions even for you. You know what? You may not get this opportunity in a week, in a month. You don't know. And all of a sudden, because the weather's hot, people get all excited and horny for real estate, and they're like, okay, let's go buy right now. And you may be too late. You know, it's funny because I remember in early to mid 2020, I said to people, if you ever want to buy New York, get in right now. Don't hesitate. But people are like, no, it'll get worse. I'm going to hold out for another year. Waiting for that extra year, you could be sitting for a decade. And that property that you could have had for $1 million, now you're paying $2 million. But the other thing I find very interesting is like this: you get in the market at any point. You probably started at a low price point. So now if you're going to sell and it dipped down, the thing you're going to go buy probably dipped down more. So you're still ahead. And guess what? If it went up, then the next thing you're going to buy went up too. But the difference is just get in.
Exactly. Exactly. 100%. And I have this conversation too, like every buyer consult I have, they give me this huge wish list. And I'm like, look, because I'm looking at their financial situation, I'm like, what you're wanting right now, you cannot afford. You can't afford your dream house, but it's more important for you to purchase something so you can build equity in that something. So that way, 5 years from now, you can sell it and buy the dream home, you know. But people don't understand that. They're not they would rather pay rent for 5 more years and then still not get their dream home than buy something that's either maybe needs some work, or maybe is smaller than they're wanting, or maybe isn't in the perfect area. Then, you know, it's better to do that, to buy something, just like you said, get in the market, because you can play the game better if you're already in it. Like, it's easier for someone who already owns a home than it is for a first-time home buyer to make a purchase. It just is, because you have money from the sale of your house, you have the equity as your next down payment.
Bingo. And listen to this. They're talking about New York City now, but you know what? This could be anywhere in the world, really. I think,
Oh
and
yeah.
any market, this would hold, but especially in New York City. Like it's funny because there's only so much real estate, only so much land to go around, and that's one of the things I always argue when you're outside of New York. If you're like we are in Toronto and other major cities, you think prices are expensive here? Go look what the prices are in New York. You could probably buy 5 apartments here to what you'd buy there. So keep
Oh
it in
man,
all
yeah.
perspective. When you're in a major metropolis, there's a reason why New York is New York, LA is LA, and Miami is Miami. Now, finishing off, I know you have your seminar. You have another seminar coming up. Thank you for booking us in. I know your time is very
Yeah.
precious, but I'm not letting you off the hook until we cover one last topic.
What is it?
You live such an amazing life. You wear so many hats. We've learned about your journey, but we also connected through a very important point, which is something very big in my life, which is fitness and bodybuilding. So
Yeah,
if we
yeah,
tell the Mae Haggard story, we have to also talk about she was a bikini model and a bodybuilding competitor. So let us know
yeah.
about that, please.
You
How long ago
know,
did you do that, and what was that like?
yeah, so I started lifting weight. I've always been into fitness, and I never really, especially as a young adult, I never really found what I really love to do, and what would really change my physique in a way that made me really happy, until I found bodybuilding, and then I just fell in love with it. And I did do one competition, and I believe that was in 2019. And honestly, I did it as I promised myself that I would do it. And I was working in kitchens at the time, which made it training very difficult and nutrition very difficult. So I was
Yes.
literally not in the best shape. I wasn't in appropriate shape for a competition, but I promised myself I would do it, so I kept that promise. And I also took the
We
next.
competed in the same year, by the way, just so you know. My one
Was it the same year?
2019.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
October
that's
2019. Yes.
exciting. Yeah. So which
What
you
were your
should really.
categories?
I think I just did novice, like bikini novice. Um, but I'm actually I don't think I told you this, but I'm actually competing with in this November 5th. Same show I did. And
Wow.
because after that show, I was like, I'm gonna do another one, and I'm gonna do it right. I'm gonna hire the best trainer that I could find, and I'm gonna do it. So literally 2 weeks ago, I hired my trainer, which I had been wanting to work with him for 3 years.
Amazing.
So a huge goal, huge goal for me.
Yes.
And then so I'm on a 3 month, like a 12-week pre competition, and then I'll be going into a 12-week prep, because it's on November 5th.
Yes.
And I'm really excited.
Wow.
Really excited. Yeah.
It's mind blowing. I could tell you that I did my one and done, but I ended up having 5 trainers in different capacities on different things. It is such an investment in time, resources, energy. It's mind blowing. But I gotta ask you, like, having gone through the competition initially, now you're going to be doing it again. Congratulations, by the way. That's amazing. And
Thanks.
if you were not into the bodybuilding, gym life, into we always talk about, you and I, about healthy eating, would you be where you are in your profession today?
Uh, probably not. Working
Or a fair
ex
question, how much do you think that it helped shape your motivation, like taking care of yourself, physically, and what you consume and how you train? How has that helped shape your career?
it helps in every possible way, every aspect, because you know it builds a level of confidence and a level of trust with yourself, which is the most important relationship you have, is the one with yourself. And if you can't trust yourself, and if you're not proud of yourself, and if you're not doing what you need to do, then you'll never grow in your life and in your career the way you could. You'll never reach your potential, because you're not doing you're not doing what is necessary. And exercise, health and wellness, bodybuilding, like all of these things are challenges that I have with myself. Can I win this competition in November? Can I go through this prep and do 100 times better than I did last time? How far can I really go? you know and you need those areas in your life where you're experiencing a lot of success, to prove to yourself that the areas that you may not be experiencing as much success, you can. It's just a matter of skill and time and dedication and commitment, you know.
Love it. Love
That's
it.
what bodybuilding is for me. I love it. You know, you got to find the things that you love to do, because if you're trying to be great at something you hate, like you're fighting a losing battle, right?
Until eventually you may learn to, it's funny because I'll turn around and do the whole Buddhism thing with you. But if you hate it that much, it means you need to work harder at it. And,
Yeah,
you know, if it doesn't, that expression, if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you.
yeah,
Maybe if you hate it that much, maybe don't give up, you know, right? Not that it's saying you are, but it's
yeah,
amazing how something I could tell you a lot of things I do. I didn't love them at the beginning. I don't know if I still love them always, but I love what it brings to my life. I love the net
yeah,
effects of it. So, you know,
yeah. Good
it's
point.
called working at the gym for a reason. It's not fun at the gym, it's
Yeah,
work at the gym. But
yeah. It's training. It's
yeah,
like legit training. Yeah, absolutely.
amazing, amazing. Now, people to contact you, best way to find you, we're gonna have your Instagram handle. And
Yeah,
otherwise, any other contact information you can pass along?
yeah. Give me my cell phone. It's 901-626-2618. Text me, call me. I'm always here.
She's ready to buy and sell real estate in New
Let's
York
go.
City. You can make it there. You can make it
You
anywhere.
can make it anywhere.
Any
Absolutely.
any final thoughts on New York City? Anything we didn't cover? Any last message of inspiration?
Don't give up. Don't give up. Even if you want to, even if it's getting hard, even if you think it's the end, just keep going, keep trying, because that matters. That matters, and it will always make a difference.
Love it. Katie, thank you very much for taking out the time for us today. We know you're going to do great things. One day we may see you on one of the big reality shows as far as
You
real
might.
estate. You never ever know where life's going to take you. But thank you, and
Yeah.
thank you for the inspiration today. And as we sign off, I don't know if you see our show or not. We do the flex.
Oh, you do the flex.
We do the flex, and we say, keep living the chosen life.
Keep living the chosen life.
Cheers.